Okay, this lecture is going to be called the Soy Challenge. And I know I just recently gave a lecture about soy. Is soy good for you? But this is another lecture about soy. And here's why. Because I got so much criticism and really harsh feedback for not recommending soy. Soy is a very emotional food for a lot of people. I had women that were like saying, "Oh, why are you making these baseless statements about soy? How could you criticize soy? The Asian people eat a lot of soy and they have such low breast cancer." Well, we're going to go through that. And also, first of all, soy is very highly estrogenic, about 20,000 times more estrogenic than other beans, for example, according to the book Estrogen Generation by Anthony J., PhD biochemist, lipid biochemist. And what I'm telling you is, I come from a background of being a college wrestler. This is one of my heroes right here, this picture, Mark Schultz, winning the NCAA finals against Ed Banach from Iowa. Mark defeated him. Everybody thought Banach was going to go on to 4 national titles, NCAA titles. Mark Schultz was my coach at Stanford. And man, you want to talk about high testosterone, intense, incredible athlete. He's a great person. That's where I'm coming from. I want my testosterone as high as possible. I don't want to eat anything estrogenic. I don't want to be putting estrogenic chemicals on myself. Okay, I like testosterone. And estrogenic chemicals increase the risk of prostate cancer. I don't want to minimize my intake, my exposure to estrogen chemicals. So that's where this is coming from. This is not, everything is fine and all that. No, this is how can I optimize my physical health, physical strength, athletic ability. That's where we're coming from. And soy is not, in my opinion, good for that. Okay, so here we'll look at the next slide. And what this is about is, what do you do when somebody questions you about soy? And here's what you tell them. Give them this challenge. Tell them this challenge. You can go ahead and ask them these exact questions. Because here's what I think is going on. Just because soy is a lot better for you than meat, it's much better for you than meat is, okay? That doesn't mean soy is good. And here's the things you can ask them. The first thing, I should have numbered these. Soy, number 1, it increases insulin-like growth factor. Well, things that increase insulin-like growth factor are thought to have increased cancer risk. Why would that be any different for soy? How could that be good? And then these little things are just saying ditto it's the same question for each one of these. Soy is a little bit high in methionine, not that bad, but a little high. Things that are high in methionine, like meat, but it's actually much lower than meat. They're thought to increase cancer risk because methionine is an essential amino acid for cancer growth. Cancer really wants methionine to grow. Soy is high in fat. In the ballpark, depending on how you process it, there's subtypes of soy, about 37% fat, 37 to 40%. That's a lot of fat, okay? I want my dietary fat below 10%, around 5% optimally, okay? The fatter a person, the higher the fat you eat, the more likely you're going to get fat yourself. So you really want to be eating some fat stuff every day. Soy has a lot of phytoestrogens. Like I said, Anthony J. said it's about 20,000 times more than other beans. It's a lot of phytoestrogens, okay? And then people say, oh, well, it only activates the good estrogen receptor, not the bad estrogen receptor. That's not true. If you read the Mueller paper, it's referenced at the end of this lecture, it activates both the ER alpha and the ER beta receptors in significant amounts, in similar amounts. Okay, now, and there's also articles, for example, some people say soy is beneficial for breast cancer, and I'm aware that there's papers suggesting that. But I can also tell you there's papers in the exact opposite direction. For example, suggesting that soy stimulates the growth of estrogen-dependent breast cancer. This study was in mice, but the point is made. Here's the paper, here's the reference. And when they took the genistein, the soy isoflavone, away, the tumors regressed. So is it really a good idea for a cancer patient to be eating that? I wonder. I would doubt it. Something that activates estrogen alpha and beta. Do you really want that? Okay, what about papers that show soy causes proliferation of breast tissue? And here's a paper, this one here, effect of soy protein supplementation on epithelial proliferation in the histologically normal human breast. So women who ate that, they had proliferation of the breast tissue. They biopsied them, okay? And their breast tissue was proliferating, okay? So is that something you really want? Soy is associated with increased risk of hypothyroidism, lowers your energy level. Is that a good thing? How is that a good thing? Okay. If somebody can refute all of these things, great. Then maybe I'm wrong about soy, but I doubt it. Okay. And I know some of the most famous nutrition doctors in the world recommend soy. And, I think, in my opinion, I don't know. I'd like to see them read these papers and see if they still come to that conclusion. Soy is associated with increased risk of infertility. Okay. And I think actually that's probably what it's all about. Soy seems to me to be a plant that doesn't want to be eaten. Like I said in the other lecture, soy, it doesn't have breasts, it doesn't have a uterus. What does it need estrogen for? It's making estrogen to affect the animal that eats it, and I would think that's because it doesn't want the animal to eat it, so it makes them infertile. So eventually they'll stop eating it. Soy is relatively high in choline, and if a person's 100% vegan, they probably won't make TMAO anyways, trimethylamine oxide. But if they are also eating a mixed diet, then they put themselves at increased risk for making TMAO, which is atherogenic, causes atherosclerosis. Soy contains heme iron. Well, heme iron, the more heme iron you eat, it's thought to be the higher the risk of colon cancer. Why would that be a good thing? Okay, and I actually think soy has similarities to meat, and that's partly why soy is often used to make a so-called veggie burger. It's usually sprayed now when you get it non-organic, and the vast majority of it is non-organic. I don't know the exact percent. I've heard numbers like 93%. I don't know exactly what it is and in what country, but most of it is non-organic, and it's sprayed then with glyphosate, which is an estrogenic pesticide. Well, it's an estrogenic herbicide. It's also an antibiotic. It has leaky gut-like effects. Stephanie Sefniff wrote an entire book about it called Toxic Legacy. You would be amazed at all the problems with that stuff. Do you really want to be eating that? I don't think so. It's often processed with hexane. How could anything be good about that? It's usually GMO. Okay, how could anything be good about that? And what does that really mean? What is the significance of that? Now, I know some of the best nutrition doctors in the world think that that doesn't really matter. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I'm not so sure. I've heard negative things about it. I haven't really gone deep into studying on that, but I would avoid it if I could. And some of them do say avoid that, but still. Why do so many experts say you must limit your quantity of soy? Well, you know, that sounds like only use a pea-sized amount and call poison control if you swallow it, okay? I mean, you don't have to limit your intake of starches and fruits and vegetables. Why is it such a big deal to limit that? Maybe because it's really not that good for you. Anyways, if somebody questions why you don't want to eat soy or tries to tell you soy is good for you, ask them to answer this questionnaire and see if they can refute all of these arguments. I think you'll find it very interesting. Oh, and here, just a quick, I'll show you the references. So here's a bunch of references, you know, its effect on calcium metabolism, some of the other papers about its concerns with regard to breast cancer, and of course all this stuff with goiters, and the Estrogen Generation book by Anthony J., PhD, lipid biochemist, is quite good. Estrogeneration, clever, funny book. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Hope that's helpful.